afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacast with me, your host, Imperial Dane, Master Propaganda Hero, Reich, Defender of the Fatherland. We're off here to 1 vs 1 on a favorable approach between the north. We got here disturbing, fighting for the Oberkommando, Germany, Deutschland. Here taking on the role of the 9th Panzer Division versus in the east, we've got here Jove fighting for king and country for once, for the Commonwealth, here for the 52nd Infantry Division, and he's got here Commando Regiment, ooh la la, and special weapons and tactical support, but that one certainly stands out a bit there. Triple Infantry versus disturbing Luftwaffe, Spec Ops, Scavenge, and only a single infantry bulletin. I guess there might have been some kind of slip up there. We got double sections for Jove, sandbags being laid down there thoroughly, versus a Fultz going to jump on his side here for disturbing and rushing quickly southwards there. More Fultz there running for disturbing. And more sandbags there for Jove and further sandbags. Here again, you can see there's a very thorough approach there from Jove. Not one beat miss or any opportunity to miss to lay down sandbags wherever possible. Thus, in most cases, going to have a slight edge there. So that's some nice work to see there from Jove. Vickers following up there. And Storm Pioneer sitting for the fuel point there. Vickers soon to be ready. A World War I vintage, if not older, weapon. Also was used to find sort of as artillery, but sort of just angling it upwards and sort of finding, in a more arcing way there. It was in fact also used in like that in World War I. Little fun fact there. Thankfully, they did not decide to give that capability to the Vickers Green Company of Heroes too. That probably would have given a lot of troubles. Point there being secured, point here being secured, and here as well. You got Fultz occupying the house a bit more aggressively. Point there being grabbed as well for the fatherland. We got more Fultz there for disturbing. Section quietly advances. First shots fired. Here's the Vickers opens up with the Fultz gundies, unleashing hell with support there from the other men, the machine gun crew. Right, Ralph, give those Jerrys a good pasting. A good what? Just shoot them, Ralph, for heaven's sake. Another Fultz squad around there. We can see here Joe's going in aggressive with the section. We consider sandbags around here or not. Point there being secured. You could consider maybe sort of flank up for here, sort of try and get behind Jove's forces around to so that way deal damage to them. That would not be, I think, half bad idea. Big scrabbling up there. We got troops moving through the front. And Jove here is taking up already. We got the platoon command post up. And meanwhile, disturbing is going to tech up. There we go, Salt moving in. It looks like he's going to pull off a flanking against Jove. Very nicely done there. Very nicely done. Might rush for the house, then denied to the Vickers machine gun crew before it's too late. Neither player seems frankly going for it. Interestingly enough, but either way, we've got a bit of pressure here again. The flank of the Vickers is very open. He needs to move the Fultz gunners up there to sort of attack from the rear. For some reason, he's not reacting to the Vickers there. It feels a bit weird there by disturbing. Does manage to push back the section there. Other Fultz squad crew move in. There we go, punting down the Vickers there with the Storm Pioneers getting a kill there. Almost got the section, but I definitely could have, have been a bit more engaging there by disturbing. Just feel a bit too pass, but there goes quick shifting back. The Storm Pioneers realising they might be the next target here of the Vickers crew. Fultz was there, but they're still standing about. He's moving up. They can't quite seem to make up his mind, but there goes actually in a reasonably bad spot. There we go. We can see Joe realises he's actually set up in a bad spot and quick retreats it. Just to avoid losing it right there. Had he sort of allowed it, he could just even fire a bit more there. He could have been wiped. In fact, he could still have a slight chance of being wiped here, but it'll be wiped within the boundaries of the machine gun emplacement, meaning it's not going to be something that the disturbing can actually seize. Finally gets those chaps moving now. Apparently they were just sort of complaining about radio interference. Yeah, we can't hear you. Do you think it's working? Well, shut up, they can't hear us, you know. Bit of shooting there. Bad group headquarters there for disturbing. No surprises there, really. Quick light infantry gun, which in this case is a bit of a weird choice considering his opponent against got. Well, it's got a Vickers, that's about it. I think, machine guns or more infantry would be the initially better choice for disturbing. Since currently Joe's forces is not of that static nature. Growing points there, laying down sandbags, so we can see the Joe's got most of the map there against Jove. Reinforcement going on there. Medics soon be done, and we got a sniper out here for Joe. Going to bleed out those Germans, those dastardly Huns, which was basically the reference to Huns, sort of a World War I reference, where they sort of call them the Huns, as they sort of pillaged their ways through Europe, and it rather stuck on in World War II as well. Little fun fact there. Troops reinforcing, healing. Granted, the results are a bunch of propaganda, sort of remind people, those Germans after the war weren't that friendly. Those were some nasty fritzes. So that's also a little fun fact that would perhaps doesn't get so much discussed, but there was some propaganda there as well. We got light infantry gun now on for disturbing in. I mean, some players just tend to go for light infantry gun, even doesn't necessarily make an awful lot of sense. Again, it's very much a weapon for dealing with, more static players. While Jove certainly spring up a bit more. I mean, initially probably better off with machine guns to help deal with the moving elements, more infantry to pressure his opponent. But so just, going for the light infantry gun no matter what always strikes me as a bit of an awkward idea. We've got folks being pushed back, wiped in this case, too slow retreating. Nasty loss there to disturbing. Got a bit of fire there on the Vickers machine gun. Landing hit after hit. Section standing about there. In this case, of course, the light infantry gun does turn out to be quite useful, but I think the point still stands. I do think too many Commando players at the moment just go for the light infantry gun because they can, with not necessarily actually thinking through if they should. Disturbing though needs to replace that. Folks going to score to get out some other infantry. You could soon go for Fudgemakers, you could go for Jaegers. I mean, he's got a few options there, certainly, versus Jove. He just needs to, actually embrace them. 6 Pelican gun setting up, they've got to push for the fuel pond there. Lightning gun firing away. Like this infantry Geschütz. The older model, that's the sort of more progressed. There were several models that were sort of created, sort of more pack variants, but basically sort of the same idea, just they were also a bit more useful versus armor. More folks guns there for disturbing, as expected. A few mines here and there I think would also be a good idea for disturbing. Got more sniper kills here for Jove. Fuel point there secured and denied to disturbing. Good work there. Third Fox shot almost stunned for disturbing. Back here, nothing further going on for Jove. There we go. Catching the sappers out in the open. Grabbing the fuel point there. Now, of course, it got the sniper. The sniper's going to be a problem there. He's actually calling in Jaegers in this case, sort of trying to dispatch. In fact, he's springing them forwards in a rare display of someone actually using the sprint ability on the Jaegers. It doesn't quite, kill him, but it does sort of force Jove here to retreat pretty rapidly. Meanwhile, reinforcement hitting going on. Need to push southwards to grab back the fuel point. Then he's grabbing the northern one. Need to at least deny that to Jove. In this case, it's just pushing onwards here. In this case, ignoring the sappers, allowing them to get close to their Sten guns and kill poor Dieter. So points have been seized, discontinued movement. No mines here though from the Sten. Again, I think this is prime mine territory. Just hasn't quite seemed to bother with it. Light infantry gun getting off a few more shots. Back in, I think further going on for Jove. He could take up for armored cars. Bofors. Go for emplacement. Of course, we do have the first option. It is called Scavenge, thanks to the Jaegers. Of course, that tells us that right away. Opens up for grenade assaults and the likes. And of course, the Austrian flak panzer support his forces at the front line. Got more movement here, though. Still no mines there from disturbing. He seems very much a non-mine person. Closing in veterans 1 there, but still done some damage, but no real kills. We've got Jaegers playing behind the section though. That could at least get some kills in there. They're all really low on health, and the Jaegers sort of have a good chance of killing anything there. You can see sort of with the below this, I think 70 health per threshold or something in there, we can just quickly cut down units like that if they're sort of in a very poor state. So that quickly forced Jove there to retreat a section. Further fighting in the north here, over the fuel points. The Stone still trying to gain a lead there over Jove. Seems to be slightly working out. And Stu on punishing straight to the Vickers here, a bit too slow. There you go, section being pushed back. The artillery there proving perhaps a bit too much as well. Reinforcement healing, disturbing on the offensive across the front in the 9th Panzer Division advances. There we go, the Vickers gets away very, very fast. Like, very, very, very fast.
Damned enemies trying to take a point from us.
You do have bolster sections there for Jove, increasing the overall manpower can bring to bear in the field. Durability and of course firepower. Generally not a bad idea unless you have too many infantry squads, in which case you can quickly strangle you with manpower upkeep. But say if you just have sort of a few squads, I mean, it tends to be a pretty good upgrade and just gives you more out of those few squads you're using, making them more lethal and of course a lot harder to kill even for tanks, especially versus tanks. Disturbing could also consider booby traps. Again, he's got plenty of munitions. He's just not utilising. We also got Commando Regiment for Jove. A rare display there of a Commando Regiment. I still think it's a pretty good doctrine. He's just so very, very, very little used. Since people just want to go for mobile assault. What, they're being seized. Okay, enough of moving up, and there we go. Supply half take out there for disturbing. They're shooting there in the south, folks, with a section. Bit of standoff here in the centre. There we go. Sniper joining up here in the north, folks, taking losses. Jumper's going after the saps. He does lay down mines. Good work there again. What disturbing doesn't do, Jove does. I mean, good work there by Jove. That's really again something that disturbing should have been doing. Okay, calling commandos, assault, and we got smoke renovation. He's actually calling in here, and he's. Oh no! I don't think he paid attention to what's going on there, but he actually sets up the schwer panzered quarters right in the path of the glider. Talk about damn good luck for Joe. It's going to land right on top of it. Meaning it can just do a ton of damage. He's going to have to cancel the schwer panzered quarters before it takes too much damage. Losing him too many resources. There we go. He managed to recruit some of the resources, but still that was a lot there. Plus light infantry gun crew is going to kill. I mean, right there, the commandos have, in a matter of seconds, as they enter the battlefield, hit Veteran C2. That is some damn filthy luck there. And not the RNG kind of luck. The I'll just pop in a commando squad on its cutoff point and see what happens kind of luck. Almost wipes the Flotska squad as well here. These guys are bloody devils. I mean, that's the effect a well-handled commando squad can have. Good lord. I'm pretty sure that threw a huge wrench into Disturbing's plans. Wait, what's that in the sky? It's an aeroplane. Nine, I think it's a glider. Oh, yeah. Scheiße. Prepare for commandos. Got the sniper here opening up on the advancing Germans. In this case, deciding not to open up on them. Joe's commandos saying they're waiting for the right time to strike. Got more Jaegers here. Up for him in the... Just the rang off map. There's Vickers occupying the house problem. There you go. Push back by the commandos. Quick strike there. So Disturbing here suddenly found himself in a rather disturbing situation. Commandos falling back there, taking man losses, moving into cover. There we go. As soon as they ambush, he doubles back. And does he have some plan here? He's laying down demo charges, and apparently you can do that while camouflaged. Oh. Oh dear. That's dangerous. That is very dangerous. We got a big push towards the south, a bit of movement in the north. A Kedmeth recruiting out Jaegers. Oh, the Jaegers going to move straight into the demo charge. And only one man survives. The rest blown to smithereens. Annihilated. I mean, these commanders are wreaking absolute havoc on Disturbing.
Enemy causing trouble, trying to
there you go. Jove is finally forced to retreat them, but I mean, they have done huge damage to Disturbing. Huge. I mean, if only Disturbing again would lay down mines or booby traps. I mean, he's got so much munitions, yet he's just not utilising. I mean, he's got Jaegers. Again, Jaegers can put down booby traps. Oh, he's finally laying down mines. It only took him almost 15 minutes. That one is definitely something that Disturbing needs to improve upon rather seriously. Again, also booby traps. I mean, they are pretty good. Are the commanders good to go again? Do any weapon max? Nope, we got grenades though for Jove, and we got here the company command post up for Jove as well. Section under 5, we got the Jaegers moving about here. Still no booby traps though from Disturbing. He seems very much a non-booby trap man. Betty 2 gained, but a staunch series of shots there rather caused them some problems. It's also timing for the mid-game analysis. In terms of damage, Jove's ahead kills-wise, Jove's ahead. As Germans, you generally don't want your opponent to be ahead of you. So in that regard, Disturbing is certainly struggling. I mean, he's got a more valuable army in a sense, but he's definitely struggling in some ways. Again, the Commandos are having a huge effect there, but also I think some of just the mistakes there Disturbing made. Again, the lack of mines, booby traps. Again, he's got so much munitions, yet he's not actively using his resources compared to Jove. Though they are sort of close there, but again, Jove's actually using his munitions more, which again can have a bigger impact on manpower till then. Points held there again. We can see Disturbing the results have got more map control again, more map control, for example, for the Germans result in higher casualties. I mean, this kind of does make sense, but it's still not really that good for Disturbing Arm. I mean, he needs to improve. I mean, he's probably going for another 1200 quarters. Just, needs to play it somewhere safer and keep a bit better eye there. It doesn't get called into Commander's strike as well. I mean, that's going to be pretty terrible. That could be GG right then and there. Otherwise, mines, booby traps, whatever you can do, you can just stall down Jove's forces, bleed them out that way, and so you can bring out some armor, in which case his priority should probably be a Panther. I mean, he's already behind in a sense, at least resource-wise. In that regard, the Panther would very much be the safest choice there for Disturbing versus Jove, and I think would sort of put him in the best control situation. And otherwise, supporting it with Orbital Gun would not be a bad idea either for Disturbing. But again, mine and booby traps sort of start hit the flanks there, so then try to get behind Jove's forces, and that way, hurt them. Also, be aware of the Commandos. As for Joe, I mean, he's doing pretty well, but he does, I think, need to exert more pressure on the flank, not get too caught up in the center. Weapon actually would be good, but he doesn't have enough munitions. Otherwise, just getting out some tanks fast, I think, could work out pretty well for Jove. And, using his stock time, for example, he could use smoke raid operations to launch a big, large-scale assault covered by smoke and just cutting off a lot of territory, for example. I mean, that would be pretty effective there for Jove. Or you could just say right here for an assault. I mean, he does have some sections, full size there, that could benefit from it as well. Or he could save up for the mortar cover ability, which is also a pretty good ability. No, I mean, it's a really, really good doctrine, which I think a lot of players are overlooking. But back to the fight here. Let's see what happens. Jumpers are being harassed by the Commandos, and they're starting Sten guns. Grenade assault here. Except they threw it way too far there, and instead they get wiped by the Commandos. I mean, do not underestimate the damage the Commandos can do up close. They can do a lot. At least it's not like that time when they pretty much outdid assault rifles with silent submachine guns. Oh, nice hit there. Black gun bomb, there we go, quick retreat there. Smoke grenade pop as they get the devil out of there. But Disturbing there certainly feeling the wrath of Jove and the British Empire. Southern point there being grabbed. You got the full scale steel parts running through the centre here. Swiftly advancing. And up here, healing reinforcement going on. Straight to the Vickers here, unleashing hell from inside the house. Again, Veterans 1 that gives it a sizable arc of fire. As you can see here, it can really cover a large amount of territory. Southern point being secured. Back here, we got Anvil? Oh. I mean, Jove's definitely not playing by the meta now. I mean, he's not only going for Commando Doctrine and utilizing it, though, so far not a huge deal, though he's making good use of the Commandos. I mean, he's making really good use of the Commandos, but he's aiming for Churchill tanks? You don't see that very often, that's for sure. Oh, wow. Looks like the glider just went airborne again.
If they attack, the enemy will get a drubbing, thanks to our new anvil tactics.
So yeah, anvil tactics. Will he go for heavy sappers or something? That'd be pretty interesting. It does need some munitions for that. Southern point there being secured. Moments away there from the Churchill tank. Sections moving up, Commando supporting. And again, note how Joe's actually using the cow to just allow them to creep out there. Get up close and then unleash hell from a sort of nice position. I mean, that's some really solid command. And in this case, he got a bit unlucky there, but the Strap Hunter quarters actually can't suppress them, it seems, despite shooting numerous hits there. That's kind of lucky for Jove, though. That is kind of lucky. In this case, they just get up close, ugly, and then unleash all kinds of hell there on Disturbing. Who's now called in a flak punch, which actually delays any sort of armor response you can always get. I mean, it certainly helps us with the infantry, but once the tanks hit, though, Disturbing's going to be in a bad spot. I mean, he can't, go for the Panther now easily, so I mean, this could prove to be a bit of a problem. he might be forced then to have to go for the Jagdpanzer. And of course, he's going to have to really get the most out of his flak panzers. You know, otherwise this is not going to be worth it at all. And remember, your flak panzer is more accurate when not moving. We're talking a 50% decrease in accuracy when shooting on the move. That applies, in fact, to most German vehicles. Only the Panther, which only gets a 40% decrease, sort of has any sort of real change. Well, it's also the looks. But the primary to note is a lot of those are Oberkommando West vehicles and not Wehrmacht, and again, not the Ostwind. He's looking to do a lot of damage inside. Jove's base is harassing. He's going a bit nuts here, doing some damage. Pretty risky there. And if Joe Theo didn't mind the entrance to his base, that could have given him disturbing quite some problems. Still, he's close to Vetson's one, and we got the Churchill tank on the way for Jove. There we got the Churchill tank. You certainly don't see those very often in 1 versus 1s nowadays, but it is certainly going in there. The Churchill tank, what's known, was an infantry tank, which was meant to support infantry during attacks, helping them sort of deal with fortified positions and the likes. And thus they had really heavy armour, but not so great a gun that they would sort of amend that on later versions of the Churchill tank. For example, this one having the 75mm gun compared to the previous models, which had a 6-pounder gun. So some interesting details there. Flank here with the Futzkers with Kedman. Just he's got grenaded here by the section. Disturbing there, not paying attention. Good grenade for there by Jove, wiping like Kedman there for denying him his only anti-tank weapon. Just the Churchill tank hits. The Churchill Mark 7. Setting out there to deal with some Huns. Really don't see the Churchill very often. Here we got Jove actually bothering with Churchill tanks. I mean, they are pretty tough though. I mean, they got the most health of any tank. And they got pretty good armor as well. So right here, Disturbing's going to have to go for the Jagdpanzer, or try to stay up for a Panther hit versus the Churchill tank. And he definitely should not try and lose his Ostwind. In this case, the Commando though saved the Ostwind there. That is pretty close. Mine goes off in the south, they're dealing with a section member there. Again, there for their cruise and cruise. Share Panther quarters firing away. Single shot, I think, penetrates the very thick armoured high. They had over 110mm of armour. Rolling ahead there. He's going for a Kedmir for that because that's all he can get at the moment. Grenade attempted there by the Churchill crew. Kedmir almost done. We got a bit of harassment up here, so at least he's not allowing himself to get completely bogged down by the Churchill, trying to at least do something elsewhere on the map. That's a good move there by Disturbing. That is actually a good move. But there we go, Kedmir setting up and penetrates there the Churchill's thick armour, forcing it to pull back. Going ahead again. Shot penetrated there. Damage engine with a Panzerfaust. Do some more serious damage there to it. In particular, we can flank behind. He could actually clear out the anti-tank and to steal that. That would actually be a pretty big win there for Disturbing if he were able to deny Jove his own anti-tank and secure it for himself. So far, he's not really utilising the Ostwind for that. He's going in the north. We've got Commanders harassing back. And mine there goes off from the Jaegers. Ostwind moves in. Needs to get away though. 6-pounder gun there. We got heavy sappers nearby as well. That's going to mean these damage on the church. Oh, never mind. He's calling in artillery. That's going to force away everything here. Unless Jove is not fast enough, which of course he is because he's Jove. Champion of the Commonwealth. At least for now.
Can now be used by many units.
Trench there being dug in. Looks like he's setting up for the Jagdpanzer, or Panther I mean. He definitely should be going for a Panther 4 here. He definitely should not be going for that. That would be a pretty bad choice. Okay, if they're quickly turned against the Ostwind, unsurprisingly. Almost lost it. That was pretty lucky there for Disturbing. But he is getting close, though. He is getting close again. We're talking minutes away from the Panther. And if he can get the Panther out, though, he should be able to threaten the Churchill and any other Churchill Jove might get. I mean, Jagdpanzer can to an extent do that, but the Panzer IV is going to be not the best choice in because it can't really reliably penetrate the front line of the Churchills, whereas the Churchill can do that with the Panzer IV, at least more than the vice versa. Plus, of course, even if they sort of could easily do it with the same reliability, I suppose roughly can. In fact, the Churchill might sort of in-game have the same level of armor as the Panzer IV, but the Churchill still just has more health than the Panzer IV, which is really a bad thing. He's taking... Oh, no, what are you doing disturbing? That is a disturbingly poor call of judgment there. I mean, not only is he taking up, he's going for a Panzer IV. He should be waiting for the Panther. The Panther disturbing. Oh, dear. That is definitely not a good choice there by disturbing. That is a appalling choice, I think. Again, his opponent's got a Churchill's out there. Again, the Panzer IV is not a good choice here. Again, a Churchill indicates your opponent's ahead again. If your opponent's ahead of you, you have to go for a Panther. I mean, there's just not really much of an argument there to be had as the Commando West. Unless you're really, 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 really good with Panzer IVs, which few players are. Section need to retreat. Get out of there. Volksgrenadiers. Schnell, Rückzug. At least the Austrians was able to save the day. They got the Churchill rushing into the base here. A Ken with a fire there. Panzer IV almost done. That was definitely not an even remotely recommended choice there for disturbing. Panzer IV misses. Going in there to challenge the Churchill tank. Gets a penetrating hit like Ken with misses. Shot bounced. Shot bounced. Shot penetrated the Panzer IV there. Got a hit and return there. Osman demon troops in the south there. It's closing on Betty 2 somewhat, but it's taking hit from the 6-pounder gun there. Shot bounced. Shot bounced. I think the lightning gun actually got a penetrating hit there. Interestingly enough. Sapper's moving up. Commando's moving up in game. The Jaeger's forcing away Vetch by the way. Penetrating hit there on the Churchill. Can't over the Panzer IV. All the Raketen effort. Commando's almost wiped out. Panzer IV got the 6-pounder gun here carrying the retreat. Good work there, good work. They need to pull the Panzer IV out of there, or at least first deal with the anti-tank. The problem is on its own, it's going to be then knocked out by the Churchill. And there you go, forced away. He was actually surprisingly close here. But, you know, I think a Panther would have been much better in this situation. It would have reliably penetrated it. Churchill would not have been able to reliably penetrate the Panther's frontal armour. And again, that's really what he should be aiming for here. But it can be done reliably.
They're trying to take it.
And I think Jove is going to go for another Churchill, which is really then going to make the Panzer IV an absolutely bad idea. Again, this is really where the Panther would be excellent. And the Panzer IV rubbish, if indeed he does go for a second Churchill tank here. But I'm guessing here that disturbing's just not considering it, because no one goes for Churchills in 1v1, at least barely anyone. And I mean, some players you get to sort of play on auto responses. It's just, you know, a lot of reflex in a sense, you know, strategically as well. You know, they just go for this because it's the build order. You know, it's also why, as a rule of thumb, I try not to, you know, give people specific build orders. I make sort of give openings, but overall, I tend to not advise people to go for build orders because it leads to the kind of play there where they just sort of unthinkingly go for stuff which, when it doesn't clearly make sense. Like, for example, here, there's a Churchill heavy tank on the field, and he goes for a Panzer IV. Again, this is, you know, the problem when you just sort of follow build orders. It means you're not acting. It means you just follow. It means you're not even reacting. You're just following a plan, you know, unthinkingly, like a drone. And again, that's sort of bad stuff. Whereas again, Jove here is blowing something completely, you know, unexpected for disturbing, and he just responds to it. You know, say his opponent gone for Kronk, in which case the Panzer IV would have been a bad choice. I mean, it's like he's playing against, you know, the Soviets. Oh, we got the Churchill moving north here, catching the Volksgrenadiers there, close to Vetch 2 already, by the way. Almost a wipe there.
Damned enemies trying to take a point.
And there we go, we got Vetch 2. We also got the second Churchill tank out there for Jove. House collapsed, Commando sent running again.
Ready to go.
The poor Flitzer is trying to escape. For a brief moment there, when he sort of poked out, I thought, is that a pigeon? They're like, wait, they have pigeons in this game, and then realised, oh, it's a Volksgrenadier trying to get away. Osman bringing heavy hand, but it's going to get right in the centre of all the attention here. Eventually too, though, that's good, but needs to get out of there now. But again, as you can see now, 2 Churchills, and again, the Panzer IV is now really in a bad spot. They got no other anti-tank, and the anti-tank he has is not reliable enough to deal with the Churchill tanks, which again, can soak up a lot of damage. They can shrug off a lot of damage. Light infantry gun there wiped Osman down. Panzerfaust just failing to make an impact there on these 2 steel behemoths. Panzer IV, they're trying to deal with them, but the problem is there's now 2 Churchills. There is no way in hell that Panzer IV has a chance versus 2 Churchills, unless Jove does something singularly stupid. The sort where you just wonder, is he alright? As you can notice, there's barely anything left here now for disturbing. Units getting annihilated there, and there we go. GG, game over. I expect Churchills to become the new meta. But there you go, the power of just doing something most people don't do. I mean, it can really throw off your opponent's sort of plans. Again, for people who clearly don't quite, sort of think fully their decisions, again, it's really, really potent because, again, had he just gone for a Panther, he would at least have stood a much better chance versus the Churchills, but instead, he got completely trounced because he had to go for the Panzer IV, despite that not making any sense on any level. And again, think, when you make your choices, and particularly when it comes to armor choices, think. So few people actually actively think about the choices they make in the late game, which is generally dangerous. In particular, when you've got an opponent like Jove, who is clearly thinking a lot and has thought a lot more ahead of you. So in that regard, excellent play by Jove. Again, good use of the Churchills, good use of Commandos. I would have liked to see more of the Doctrine, again, some assaults, smoke raids, maybe some mortar cover. But overall, I mean, he just made good use of the Commandos. Even then, again, that one Commando squad just completely threw off disturbing. I mean, that was some really good luck. They just landed right there where the Scrap Panzer's quarters were going up. But, jeez. I mean, a lot of things I think sort of pass and go through. But again, I think an interesting strategy by Jove, saying, for some players just tired of the usual stuff to maybe consider. But again, even if you sort of decide to try and emulate, do keep some more flexibility. Do try to have some backup plans thought out in case your opponents go for something else than expect. Do be able to, for example, be calling say a Firefly to support them in case your opponent does go for a Panther, because that's then what Joe would have required if his opponent had gone for Panthers. But again, his opponent went for a Panther, in which case he could easily just go for a second Churchill and trounce disturbing hard. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this match. Hope you learned something from it. If you did, subscribe to the friends, share it with everyone. This is Imperial Lane signing off. Thank you all for watching. Hope to see you tomorrow for another exciting episode. Cheers.